What we're going to start today out with is a quick review of what we've been working on the past couple days of law of sines. I'm just going to make sure that you know what you're doing before you take your quiz today. Your quiz consists of 6 questions. Some of them you will find the sides of the triangles and some you'll find the angles, all using law of sines that we've been working on the past 2 days. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first problem. What I'm going to do is show you the problem and then give you a little bit of time to work on it, and then we'll come back together and check it. So here's problem 1. I'm going to have the substitute go ahead and pause the video as you work. A couple things I want to point out. First of all, notice on this problem you're finding the side of a triangle, so you will not use your second button. And the second thing is make sure that you understand your rounding to the nearest tenth. Don't forget how this law of sine works. You're finding the sine of an angle, putting it over the ratio of the side, and doing the same thing with the second angle and solving. Go ahead and try this and we'll come back together and check it. I'm going to have the substitute pause the video as you solve, and then we'll check it here in a couple minutes. Okay, so what we're going to work on is we have an angle that's 31 degrees that gets matched up with the side that is opposite that, which is the x. So we're going to set up a ratio that says sine of the 31 degree angle over x is going to equal, now I have a second angle, which is the 43 degree angle, and the side that is opposite it is the 21. So I'm going to set that up a ratio of sine of 43 degrees over the side that is opposite, which is 21. Now remember, we're solving for x, which is a side. So what we're going to do now is just simply cross multiply. I'm always going to do the side that has an x first. So it's x times the sine of 43 degree angle. And that's going to equal, I'm going to cross multiply this side, which is going to be 21 times the sine of a 31 degree angle. Now we're solving for x, trying to get x by itself. Notice what's extra with it is the sine of a 43 degree angle. So to get rid of that, we're going to need to do the opposite, which is to divide by the sine of a 43 degree angle. Remember that these will cancel out. So what we have to do now is pick up our calculator, and you're going to enter into your calculator exactly what you see here on the right-hand side. So go ahead and pick up your calculator. Make sure you've put it on the correct mode. Remember, it needs to be on degree mode because we're going to put degrees in. So we're going to hit 21, hit your sign button, type in 31. You've already hit the degree mode, so close out your parenthesis. And then it's divided by. So hit divided by. And at the denominator, it's the sine of a 43 degree angle. Make sure you close out your parenthesis. When you hit enter, our answer is going to be 15.85. I'm going to use that 5 as my rounding tool because it's 5 or higher, it will round up. So my 15.8 will become 15.9. Now let's check out our answer and make sure that that makes sense. So notice that our side that we just figured out was 15.9. It is opposite the 31 degree angle, which is smaller than the 43 degree angle. And opposite the 43 degree angle was the side of 21, which should be longer than the side we figured out, which you see is the case. So again, we feel pretty good about our number. We'll try another problem here in just a couple seconds. Okay, for this problem, I want you to understand what you're trying to do. And this one is you're trying to find an angle. So remember, anytime you're finding an angle, you're going to need to use your second button on your calculator to tell your calculator that you are using it backwards or the inverse to find an angle. Go ahead and try this problem. I'm going to have the substitute pause the video while you work. Okay, now that we're back together, notice that the sine of x is our ratio we're going to start out with. And remember, we put that over the side that is opposite that angle, which is x, and that side has a measure of 10. We have to get one more angle. The other angle we know is the 18, and the side that is opposite that is the 12. So that will be my second ratio. So it'd be the sine of my angle, which is my 18 degrees. And I'm going to put that over the length of the side opposite, which is the 12. Okay, we're ready to do cross multiplying. Remember, I always do the variable first. So I always do that one to the left. That way your variable stays on the left. So it would be 12 times the sine of x, and that's our degrees. Remember, we're finding that angle. And then the cross multiplication there would be 10 times the sine of 18-degree angle. Now I'm trying to get x by itself, so in front of it I have times 12. I need to get rid of that times 12, so I'm going to divide by 12. I now have the sine of x to equal 10 times the sine of 18 degrees, all divided by 12. Now remember, because you're finding an angle, you need to tell your calculator to work backwards. So go ahead and hit your second feature on your calculator, and then hit the word sine, because we're using sine. We're going to type in exactly what we see here on the right hand side of our equal sign. So we're going to type in 10. Then it says sine of 18, so type that in. Don't forget to close out your parenthesis, and then notice it has a divided by, so hit your divided by 12. Once you hit enter, that will tell you your angle measure, and in this case we end up with a 14.92. The 2 is what I'm going to use to round, so I would round that to a 14.9 degree angle. Now let's check out to see if our answer makes sense. We found this angle, and the side opposite it is 10. How I'm going to compare that is the other angle we knew was 18, and the side opposite it was 12. So 18 is bigger than our angle we found, which is 14.9. We'll notice that that 10 side is smaller, so our angle should be smaller than our 18 degrees, which you see that it is. We end up with 14.9. We're going to do another problem, so I'll show you that one here in a couple seconds. Okay, for this problem, again, I want you to take a second to figure out what we're going to find. And notice we're finding an angle. So because we are finding an angle, we'll need to use our second button on our calculator to tell our calculator to work backwards. Go ahead and try this problem, and we'll come back together in just a little bit, see how you did. Don't forget to round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so if I'm looking at angle X, the side that is opposite it is that side of 19. So I'm going to use that to set up my first ratio. So it would be the sine of X over 19. And then that's going to equal my second angle that I have is that 123 degree angle, which is a big angle. And the side opposite it is 23. So I'm going to have the sine of a 123 degree angle all over 23. Now before we even get started, if we think about this, this is a 123 degree angle here. The side is 23. Notice 19 is smaller than that, so our angle should be less than 123. And visually you can kind of look and see that that angle definitely is less than 123. Okay, let's go ahead and finish our calculations. We're going to do cross products, so cross multiply. So we would have 23 times the sine of X, and then that's going to equal, when I cross multiply here, I'm going to have 19 times the sine of 123. Now when I'm solving for X, I'm going to divide both sides by 23. So I'm trying to get that sine of X all by itself. Those 23s will cancel out. So I have the sine of X to equal, I have 19 times the sine of that 123 degree angle, and then divided by 23. Now because I'm finding an angle, don't forget you're going to have to use your second button on your calculator. So hit second sine, and then you're going to type in all of this on the right hand side of the equal sign. So we're going to type in 19 sine of 123 degree angle. Don't forget to close out your parenthesis, divided by 23. Once you hit enter, you end up with your angle to equal 43.85 That 5 I'm going to use as a rounding tool, and I would end up with 43.9. Now remember at the beginning how we said that this angle that we're finding should be less than that 123. And obviously you can see that that did occur. All right, we have one more problem we're going to try, so I'll show you that one and give you some time to do it as well. Okay, for this one, notice that this time you're finding X, which is a side. So you will not be using the second button on your calculator. Again, you will not be because you're finding a side. Go ahead and try this one. We'll come back together in a couple moments. Okay, for this problem, our 65-degree angle is opposite that side X, the one we're trying to find. So I'm going to set up my first ratio and say the sine of a 65-degree angle over X, and then that's going to equal, my other angle is 21. Let me change color on that. So 21, and then the side that is opposite that is that 54 side. So I'm going to set up sine of 21 degree over 54. Now remember, I'm solving for X, so I'm going to go ahead and do the cross product where X is first. That way X ends up on the left-hand side. So I have the sine of a 21-degree angle equals, it would be 54 times the sine of a 65-degree angle. Now remember, I'm solving for X, so anything that is extra with it, which is the sine of 21 degree, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by that. When I do that, my sine of 21 degrees will cancel out on the left. And on the right-hand side, remember, you're not using the second button because you're not finding an angle, you're finding a side. So just hit the word, or hit, 54. Then sine of 65-degree angle. Don't forget to close out your parenthesis. That's all divided by, so go ahead and press divided by. And then in the denominator, you have the sine of a 21-degree angle. Again, close out that parenthesis for your 21-degree angle. And we end up with 136.56. So we end up with a length of a side to be 136.6, which is quite large. But let's see if that answer makes sense. So if you look, we just found the side that is opposite a 65-degree angle. So that side should be quite a bit longer than the side that was opposite our 21-degree angle, which was 54. So because it is quite a bit longer, that looks like a good answer. Okay, this problem, I have an angle that is a 90-degree angle. The side that is opposite that is 50. I also have a 20-degree angle, but the problem is I don't have the side that is opposite that. So where my X is located, right here, I need to figure out what the angle is opposite that X. Now remember, in a triangle, all the angles add up to be 180. So if you take 180, subtract the two angles that you know, the first one I know is 90, and then subtract your other angle, which is 20. When we do that, we'll have 180 basically minus 110 degrees. So we end up with this angle to be 70 degrees. Now the reason why that was important is that angle is opposite the side X. So remember, when you use law of sines, you need the sine of the angle on top, and you put that over the side that is opposite that, which is why we needed to figure out that 70-degree angle, because X was opposite that 70-degree angle. Now the other angle I'm going to be using is the one that is opposite the 50-degree. So that's my 90. So what I would do is set up a second ratio and say sine of my 90-degree angle over the side that is opposite, which is 50. Now before we get started here, notice again we're finding a side. That angle, it should the side should be smaller than 50, shorter than 50, because 50 is opposite 90 and this one's opposite 70. So if we end up with a number less than 50, we'll feel pretty good about that. So I'm going to do cross products with the X first, so it ends up on the left-hand side. So it says X times the sine of a 90-degree angle, and then that would equal 50 times the sine of a 70-degree angle. Now remember, I'm solving for x, so I'm going to have to divide by the sine of 90 degrees. Notice we are finding the length of a side. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out those sines of 90s because they will give you 1. Now because I'm finding a side, remember, do not hit your second button. You're just going to enter this right-hand side into the calculator. So you're going to type in 50. You're going to type in sine of 70, and that's a degree, so make sure you close out your parenthesis. Then we have that big divided by sign, so divided by. And in the denominator, we have the sine of a 90-degree angle. When we do that, we end up with our measure to be 46.98. Now, rounding-wise, this one's kind of interesting. That 8 would kick your 9 up, so my 46 would actually get rounded to 47. Now, if we recall, we said that the sides should be less than 50, which you see it is, so that looks like a good answer. All right, hopefully now you're ready for your quiz. So what we're going to go ahead and do is have the sub pass out the quiz for you. Keep your calculators. Remember, you may use your binders for that. So if you have this paper in there, that would come in handy for you. Good luck on your quiz.